Assalamu alaikum. So, my dear first year students, hope that you are well. I'm also fine by the grace of Allah. So, today I would like to discuss with you an interesting poem by Lord Alfred Tennyson that is called Ulysses. So, let's start now. The poem Ulysses. So, here you can find that it is the lecture number 4, and today our topic is the poem Ulysses, composed by Alfred Lord Tennyson. So, dear students, at first I would like to give you some information about Ulysses. So, here you can find that here is some information about Ulysses. So, it is very much important for your exam that you are given that write a note on Ulysses. So in Greek mythology, Ulysses is a mythological figure. Ulysses in Greece, Ulysses is called Odysseus. So in English, we use Odysseus as Ulysses. So in Greek mythology, Ulysses was a great hero who fought in the Trojan War. Ulysses was the great hero who fought in the Trojan War, War of Troy, between the Trojans and the Greeks. And he was the king of Ithaca. Ulysses was the king of Ithaca, a kingdom in mythological Greece. At the then ancient Greece, the kingdom name was Ithaca, and Ulysses was the king of this area. And in this poem, he is the speaker who expresses his desire. This is the name of the poem after the hero. This is the name of the poem after the hero. The name of the poem is the Ulysses. This name is after the hero Ulysses. So Ulysses is a great hero in ancient times in Greece, and in this poem he is the speaker, he is the spokesman of Lord Alfred Tennyson. He is the representative. Alfred Tennyson is a representative poet. So now I'd like to give you some information about Lord Alfred Tennyson. So Tennyson is one of the major Victorian poets. Here you can see, here you can find that Tennyson is one of the major Victorian poets. He is called the representative poet of Victorian age. If anyone asks you why he is called the representative poet, then what is the answer? Why he is called a representative poet? The answer is here because he represents his age in his poems, in his writings. Mainly, Tennyson represents his age, the crisis. He represents the Victorian spirits in his writings, mainly in his poems. So, Tennyson is a Victorian poet. He is an influential, most important Victorian poet, and he is called a representative. But he was also a poet laureate at that time of Queen Victoria. So Ulysses is one of his immortal creations, where he shows the Victorian spirit. What are the Victorian spirits? What is Victorian spirits? The desire of the Victorian people. The desire of the then Victorian people is called the Victorian spirit. And so in the Victorian period, most of the people were ambitious. In the Victorian period, there are much more adventure. There are much more advances in the field of science, in the field of technology, and in also in the field of industrial revolution, industrial area, and geographical geographical discoveries also happen in the time of Victorian age, in the time of Victorian period. So in that time, the people were very much ambitious. The people believe in action. The Victorian people are very much interested in action. They hated inactive life, lethargy life, lazy life. They believed in action. So not in living only. They never believed that life is not only for living only. Life is for action. Now we in the modern time, some people we behaves in this way that we think life is only for living. We never make want to make use our life. We never make one to profitable our life. We only sleeps, eats, and in this way we use our life. But in Victorian period, the people of the Victorian period, they never believe that. They never think that life is only not for living. They believe that life is for action. They believe in action. They want to discover something new. They want to know the unknown, to see the unseen. They want to discover, they want to explore something new. So in this way, they have the passion for knowledge. And the Victorian people has also passion for knowledge, for adventure. They have passion for adventures. These are the Victorian spirits. These are the Victorian spirits. This is also Renaissance spirit also, and for exploration. So these desires are mainly highlighted in this poem Ulysses. So Tennyson very nicely combines all the spirits of Victorian people through the character of Ulysses. The main character of the poem, the only speaker of the poem is Ulysses, and the poem is named after the hero Ulysses. In the poem Ulysses, this is the name of the poem Ulysses. The name of the poem is Ulysses, and the hero, the speaker of the poem is also Ulysses. So the finest Ulysses is the finest example of dramatic monologue. It is very much important in Victorian age. Tennyson, Robert Browning, they write mainly dramatic monologue. This is the invention of Victorian age, the dramatic monologue. So Ulysses is one of the finest, is one of the most important dramatic monologue in the history of English literature. So dear students, I would like to give you some information here about Alfred Lord Tennyson. So you know that Tennyson is a Victorian poet. He was a poet laureate of the Queen Victoria, and he is called representative poet because he represents his age, he represents his time, he represents the crisis of the people, the desires of the people of that time, of his time. That is why he is called representative poet. So already you have known about Ulysses. I replied it. Already you have known about Ulysses was a great hero in ancient time, and he was the king of the Ithaca in ancient Greece. And in this poem, he is the speaker. Ulysses is the speaker. He is the spokesman of Alfred Lord Tennyson in this poem. And he has a son named Telemachus. His wife name is Penelope. So they are the character in this poem mentioned. So now I'd like to discuss with you what is dramatic monologue. You can know you here you are known that Ulysses is the finest example of dramatic monologue. So what is dramatic monologue? I'd like to discuss with you what is dramatic monologue. So dear students, if you listen to this lecture attentively, you will be able to prepare an answer, broad question answer. What is dramatic monologue? And evaluate Ulysses as a dramatic monologue. What is dramatic monologue? And evaluate Ulysses as a dramatic monologue. You can arrange the answer of this question very easily, inshallah, if you listen to this lecture attentively. So here, what is dramatic monologue? So you here you can find that the dramatic monologue is a lyrical poem in the form of a speech where a single speaker speaks in front of listener or some listeners. It is called dramatic monologue. It is called dramatic because it begins dramatically or abruptly, and in the development of thought of the poem, it takes several sudden turns which gives a dramatic dimension in the poem. What is drama? And drama is the presentation of life in action. Mainly, drama is the representation of life in action. So there are so many dramatic incidents, so many dramatic turns in the drama. So in these types of poem, in dramatic monologue, we also find a sudden turns that gives a dramatic dimension in this poem, in these types of poem. That is why this types of poem is called a dramatic monologue. So it is a psychoanalytical poem. Dramatic monologue is a type of psychoanalytical poem. It is very much important. So here you can find that dramatic monologue is a type of lyrical poem, and in this types of poem is in the shape of a speech. Here a single speaker speaks, and there are so many or a or some listeners, and these listeners are silent. Maybe they're silent. And why it is called dramatic? Because it it starts dramatically, it starts abruptly, suddenly, and there are so many sudden turns in the development of thoughts. That is why it is called a dramatic monologue. So dear students, you can memorize, you will memorize the definition. So again I repeat that what is dramatic monologue. You know that dramatic monologue is a type of lyrical poem where a single speaker speaks. The single speaker is must, where a single speaker speaks and there are a listener or so many or some listeners, but the listeners quality is that they are silent. The listeners are silent, they only hear silently, they have no reaction to the speaking of the speaker. They only listen the speech, the listen the incidents what happens. And this is also soul analytical poem, psychoanalytical or soul analytical poem. In these types of poem we find that the writer through the character analyzes what happens in his inner soul, what happens in his soul. He expresses about his own happenings, own desires, etc. So this is dramatic monologue, and here you can find some features of dramatic monologue. This is very much important for you. It's very much important for you, dear students. It is very much important for you. What are the features of dramatic monologue? If you understand this, you can arrange the questions point by point in your own way, inshallah. So, main features of dramatic monologue is that a single speaker speaks. Whenever you arrange the answer, you can say that the most important features of dramatic monologue, one of the most important features of dramatic monologue is a single speaker speaks. In the poem Ulysses, we also find that Ulysses is only speaks in this poem, and he is a single speaker. He speaks, he is the speaker. Ulysses is the speaker of this poem. And so in this way, this poem is the fine example of dramatic monologue. And the second criteria is that silent listener. Silent listener. You can explain in this way that silent listener is another important feature, is another important characteristics of dramatic monologue. A poem may be dramatic monologue if there is silent listener. The listener may be one person or so many person or some person listener, but the quality of the listeners are that they must silent, they have no reaction, they have no comment, they have no they have no suggestion, they have no desires that are shown in this poem. They only listen, they only listen. Through the poem we can understand that there are listeners, there are listeners. As the speaker sometimes mention my friend, my friends, my dears, and my mariners. In this way, the speaker, whenever he speaks, he mentions the listener. That is how we can understand that there are silent listener in these types of poem. And another important quality is that sudden beginning or abrupt beginning. This is very much important. So you know that you can explain the most another most important feature of dramatic monologue is the sudden beginning or abrupt beginning. We can find that the poem is also starts in this way. It little profit for an ideal king. This is the first line of the poem Ulysses. It is little profit for an ideal king. Suddenly, the poem starts suddenly. Ulysses starts his speaking suddenly. No or no sequence in his speaking at the first, very beginning. He starts suddenly. That is where it is called a dramatic monologue. And so a dramatic dimension. So in this poem also there are so many dramatic dimensions. He narrates the incidents, what happens, what is his desire. So suddenly he turns from one point to another point, and this turning of his narration, of his description of his desires, gives this poem a dramatic flavor. So this is also a very much important criteria. Another is that psychoanalytical poem or psychological poem. So you know that in dramatic monologue, mainly the poet shows the soul direction of the character of the speaker. The poet shows the psychoanalytical expression of the speaker himself. In these types of poem, there is a psychological um, uh, description of the speaker who speaks. And that another poem, the speaker reveals one aspect of his life. This is very much important. Whenever the speaker speaks, whenever a speaker speaks, through his speaking, he reveals one of the main aspects of his life. So in this poem, Ulysses, we also find that Ulysses express his desire for new adventure, or to discover something new. He never likes rest. He wants to enjoy his life through adventure, through new discoveries in this way. So this is his desire to enjoy the life to the utmost level, to the highest level. This is the desire of Ulysses. So this is also a very much important feature of dramatic monologue. And another is that lyrical. The poem must be lyrical. There are so many, the rhyme scheme, stanza pattern, the use of words, the use of language gives helps the poem to be a lyrical poem. So these are the features of dramatic monologue here you can find. So dear students, so again I would like to repeat that Ulysses, this poem is about Ulysses. Ulysses was a great hero, and Alfred Tennyson is representative poet of Victorian age. So he shows in this poem the Victorian spirit, Victorian desire, what the Victorian people wants, what the Victorian people believes, what was the lifestyle of Victorian people. This is shown in this poem through the mouth of Ulysses. So it is a dramatic monologue. So these are the features of dramatic monologue. Already you are known about this. So now, the students, let's start the poem. So this is the poem Ulysses. So by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Here is a picture you can find here. So the main issues. What are the main issues of this poem? Before starting the poem, I would like to discuss with you what are the main issues of this poem. The students, you can find here that, and the central theme of Ulysses, the central theme of this poem is that there is a search of adventure, experience, and meaning which makes life worth living. Here, Ulysses searches the meaning of life. He wants to make his life meaningful. He never wastes a single moment from his life. He wants to fruitful every moment of his life. This is the main theme of the poem Ulysses. So Tennyson used Ulysses as an old adventurer. Here we find that Ulysses is an old adventurer. He is very much old, aged person. Though he is an aged person, but in will, physically he is aged person, but in will he is a young, very much young person. So unwilling to accept the settling of the old age. This Ulysses, the hero Ulysses, never wants to surrender to his old age. He never wants to settle his life in his old age. He has a longing for one more quest. He has a more quest. So this is explained in the first stanza, and then the second section of the poem we find Ulysses implies that Telemachus, his son Ulysses' son's name is Telemachus. He believes that Telemachus is better fitted to be the king, which requires more governance, discipline, and patience. And Ulysses, is better fitted to be an adventurer. So this is what he means when he says he works his work, I mine. That means he thinks that Telemachus is enough to run his present kingdom. So he wants to start a new adventure, to discover something new. And that is why he speaks to his mariners, to his friends who were with him in the travel of in the journey to the Trojan War. So these are the themes, and these are the main issues of this poem. So one might think that you will read it. I cannot discuss. I don't like to read this from the slide. You will read this. I'd like to discuss with you another things. These are the important lines, very much important lines. In the first section, he says these lines: "How dull it is to post." Next, I will discuss with you the lines. So here he can say that the life is meaningful only if there is some quest. This is the belief. This is the belief of Tennyson mainly. This is the belief of Victorian people mainly. And Ulysses here works as a mouth speech, as a spokesman of the Victorian age, Victorian spirit. The Victorian people believe that life is meaningful only if there is some quest. Is in life there is some quest. If in life there is a desire, a strong desire, then life is meaningful. Otherwise, life is not meaningful. So this is the issues of this poem. So there are some discussion here. In the last section, he also says, "You will read it. You will read it. Very easy. These are very easy. You will read it." So, dear students, now we can start the poem. We can start the poem. So, I will read the last section. Their will to seek adventure will overcome what limits age has brought upon them. Ulysses is not satisfied to sit and contemplate on his past adventures, and he is somewhat egotistical, but that egotism is secondary to his deep desire for adventures. In other words, I don't like to read this. You can read it in your home through seeing the slides. So let's start the poem, my dear students. I would like to start a brief, a brief explanation, a brief reading of the poem Ulysses. So here you can find a picture. Here you can find a picture that a little child, very little child, try to drink. He tries to drink the last drop from this bottle. So if you think that this is your life, and you can enjoy this, you can enjoy this. So this is an image, this is a picture. So let's start now. Ulysses, the poem name is Ulysses, and Ulysses is the speaker. Already you have known that Ulysses was a hero. He took part in the war of Troy in from the part of Greek, and there are, 10 years. There was 10 years. The Greek fights with the Trojans at least 10 years, and after 10 years, the Greeks won in that battle, and then the Greek soldiers return in Greece. This returning journey of Ulysses and other soldiers took 10 years. So they fought 10 years, and whenever they returns their home, it took 10 years. So 20 years. So after 20 years, when Ulysses returned from Troy to Greece, and whenever he returns in his kingdom Ithaca, he find that he is not suitable. This kingdom is not suitable for him. He starts the poem. It little profit that an idle king. Here he compares king with an idol. He mentioned king as an idol. It little profits that an idle king by this still heard among these barren cards matched with an aged wife. Now he find that his wife become aged. I mate and dole, unequal loss unto a savage race that hoard and sleep and fade, and no, not to me. He thinks that the people of his country, the people of his area, are only that hoard. They only gather, they only hoard money. They only sleep and they only feed. This is not the meaning of life. This is not the meaning of life. So after 20 years, whenever Ulysses returned in his kingdom, he never can fit. He never can cope with the present situation of its present country, Ithaca. Then he thinks that it is little profit for to make an idle king. He thinks kingship is an idle work. There is no something, there is no newness. Only rule the country people. This is not very challenging job actually. He thinks, and he thinks that the people of this country are not industrious. They only sleep, hoard, and feed. They have no goal. They have no desire to discover something new. That is why he mentioned in this way that I can rest from travel. I will drink life to the least. The students, you will memorize the line. You will memorize the line. You will memorize the line. I can't rest from travel. Ulysses believed that. Ulysses thinks that he can rest from travel. So how it is possible for Ulysses to take rest from his life as he fight with the gods, with the giants, with the supernatural agents in his returning journey in the sea voyages, and he fought in the Trojan War. He was a great hero. So it is very impossible for Ulysses to take rest from life because he loves to take challenge. He loves to discover something new. He loves to enjoy life in his own way. So he remarks that I will drink life to the less. I will drink life to the less. What is the meaning? The students, what is the meaning? I will drink life to the less. What is the meaning of this line? The meaning of this line is he wants to enjoy the life to the maximum limit, to the maximum level. You know that there are so many people in this world, but they can't enjoy their life. They can't enjoy their life. The meaning of life is not only in eating, sleeping, not in the meaning of life. Ulysses believed that, Tennyson believed that, the Victorian people believe that the meaning of life lies to discover something new, to use life, how human beings use life, what is profitable, what he does for the world, for the people, for the human generation, for the next generation. And so in this way, Ulysses believed that he wants to. Ulysses says that I will drink life to the less. That means he wants to enjoy the life to the maximum level. He wants to enjoy every moment, every second of life. He wants to make fruitful every second, every moment of his life. This, like this picture here, like this picture. He tries to take the last drop from that bottle, the last drop from this bottle. He wants to enjoy. He wants to make fruitful his life uh, of anything. So in this way, this line is very much important. And then he explains. This is a large poem, so you will read it. I will explain with you the important lines only. So all times I've enjoyed greatly, all times I've enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that loved me and alone on shore, and when through scattering reefs and the rainy heads vexed the dim sea. Here he explains the returning journey. Whenever Ulysses returns from Troy to Greece, at that time he has to face so many travels, so many adventures, so many dangerous situations in the sea. He expresses his experience, his past experience of the journey. So you can explain, you can read it from here. Uh, and then here you can find that I am a part of all that I have made. And then he says, this is the important line here: how dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rest unburnished, not to shine in use. Very much important line here, the students. How dull it is to pause, how dull it is to pause, to make an end, to make an end, to rest unburnished, not to shine in use. Very much important here. The students, here you can find two picture. One is sleeping, a dull people, an inactive people, a lethargy people. These two pictures are the pictures of inactive lethargy people who only sleeps and eats, and they have no meaning of their life actually. So Ulysses never believes in these types of life. He never believed these types of life. He is a man of action. The Victorian people believes in life in action. They never believes life in inaction. The Victorian people believes life in action. They hatred inactive people. So in this line, Ulysses says, "How dull it is to pause! How dull it is to pause! To stop the life here, to make an end." Ulysses, now he is very much aged person, but he never wants to stop his journey of his life. He never wants to end here. He wants to run his life to new adventure, to discover something new. So he compares here his life with himself with a sword, to rest unburnished, not to shine in use. He here compares himself with a sword. So if any sword, if it is not used in battlefield, so what is the meaning of this sword? So if anyone never use his sword, this sword will be damaged. It will be damaged in a certain period. After certain period, it is no shining. Without using the sword is no shining. So without using life, the life also no shine. Life is become stop. So in this way, we should use life. Here Tennyson wants to give a philosophy. Here Ulysses tries to understand us that if we use our life, so our life shines. If we never use our life in action, so our life will be stopped at that time, at that position. So that is where here we find love for action, adventurous life. Also in here you can also some red line, red color line here. You can find that, and this gray spirit yearning in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. Fantastic line here. Dear students, this is very much important for you that here you can find the thirst for knowledge. The Victorian people has very much thirst for knowledge, to discover something new. They wants to know the unknown. They wants to see the unseen. This is the spirit. This is the Victorian spirit. So in this line we find that the Ulysses judges, Ulysses thinks that he thinks himself like a sinking star. Though he's an old man, though he's dying moment, though he's an old man, though he's very much aged, but he can make his life to follow knowledge, to follow knowledge. He can make his life useful to follow knowledge, to discover something new, to follow knowledge, to know the unknown, to see the unseen, to discover something new. If human beings, if human beings uses the moment of his life, the times of his life after knowledge, then this life may be meaningful, may be useful. That is a, in these lines we find the desire of the Victorian people for the knowledge, to discover something new, to know the unknown, to see the unseen. And that is a, in this way they wants to enjoy their life. The Victorian people wants to enjoy their life actually. So here are some lines. Here you can find that this is my son, mine own Telemachus. He can say that my son Telemachus, but he uses mine own Telemachus, mine own Telemachus. Here we find that Telemachus is the son of Ulysses. Ulysses believed that to whom I leave the scepter and the Isle means island, the kingdom. He believed that his son Telemachus is enough. His son Telemachus is a perfect people, is a perfect man, is a perfect representative to rule this country, to rule these types of people. So he may starts a new journey, a new adventure. That is why he encourages here. He encourages here to his ex mariners, to his ex friends, ex colleagues in the time of Trojan War, and that is why here he expressed in this way. So dear students, here you can find the finishing another lines here. So there lies the port. In this way he says, for instance, you and I are old. You, here you. Dear students, listen to me, dear students. You, here he mentioned you. By you he mentions, by you we can understand there are some listener here. This poem is a dramatic monologue. In dramatic monologue, you find, you know, listener is must. So by you, by using word you, we find that here are some listeners. And Tennyson's mouth speech Ulysses here mentions his friends, his co-friends, ex-friends. You and I are old. We are old. Now we are old. So old age hath yet his honor and his toil. So old age has its honor. Old age has experience. Old age has experience. Old is gold. You know, old is gold. You know, we know that old is gold. Why old is gold? Because old ages has some experience, and through this experience, they can do better for the next generation. And so in this way, and these lines are very much important here. Very much important line here. He says that death closes all. Death closes, we know, death closes all. But before death, but before death, we have some duties to do for the generation, to do for the world, to do for the next people, for the next world. He says that death closes all, but something at the end, some work of noble note may yet be done. Wow, what a fantastic line here! What a fantastic line, dear students. You can find that he says that some work of noble note may yet be done. The some work of noble note may yet be done. Some work of noble note may yet be done. Here Ulysses says that death closes all. Every human being in this world must face death. But before death, we have some responsibilities. We have some duties to discover something new. We have some responsibilities to do something better for ourselves and for the world, for the people of this world. That is it. Before death, we have something. We have some duties to do some noble works, to do some noble work for the people of this world. So there, here we find the desire of new adventure in search of new experience. Here you can find a picture here that here you can find a picture. A man is standing here, and it seems to us that he desires for something new. He desires for something new for this world. So this is very much important line from your book. In from explanation part, you will try to understand this. And another some lines here. So here you can find a picture here. The surrounding furrows for my purpose holds. In the last line here you can find that but strong in will, made wake by time and fate. What a fantastic line. We are one equal temper of heroic hearts. What a fantastic line here. The student says that we are not now that strength which in old days. Ulysses express his own situation that we are not now that strength which is old days. You know that in old days there is no physical strength. In old days, old people loses their physical strength. It is very easy, it is very common. But moved earth and heaven, moved earth and heaven, that which we are one equal temper of heroic hearts, but they have heroic hearts. They have no strength physically, maybe, but they have strength in their hearts, in their mind. He says that made wake by time and fate, by time and fate they become wake, maybe, but by time and fate human beings may become old, very much old. By time and for fate, by facing time, human beings become losses their physical strength, physical beauty, a physical charming quality. But Ulysses believed that, but they have heroic hearts, they have strength in their mind, but strong in will. What a strong line, what a fantastic line, what a philosophical line, the students. But strong in will. He tries to say that we are old in physical, but no, we are not old in our will. In our willpower, we are very much strong. We are very much strong. And in the last line, he says that, what a fantastic line. He says, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to wield. This line, in brief, this line is a Victorian spirit. He wants to say that to strive, they wants to struggle more. They wants to struggle, to seek. Why they struggle? To seek, to find. Here he uses seek and find. That means discover and invention. Discover and invention. They wants to discover and they wants to invent something new. So this is the spirit of Victorian people. The Victorian people wants to struggle in their life. They wants to struggle in their life. They wants to search newness. They wants to search new knowledge. They wants to search new geographical areas in this world. They wants to search some new knowledge for the betterment of human generation. So that is where the line explains. In brief, the line express the whole Victorian spirit. In a single line can express the whole Victorian spirits. Here the poet finished the poem in this way: to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. And the human beings never and ever, they never want to yield, they never want to surrender anything. They never want to surrender anything. So Ulysses believed that Ulysses said that he wants to strive, he wants to seek, he wants to find something new, and he never wants to surrender. He never wants to surrender to life. He never wants to surrender to life. Rather, he wants to use his life. He wants to enjoy his life. He wants to make fruitful every second, every moment of his life. So, in this way, we find the Ulysses is a fantastic poem where the poet shows the Victorian spirit very nicely, very nicely. So in this poem, I hope that you will understand that Ulysses was a great hero. Ulysses was a great hero in ancient Greek time, and he was the king of Ithaca. Whenever after 20 years he returned from Troy to his country, and returning his country, he find that this life is very much ideal, so he wants to start a new journey. He wants to start a new journey. So in this way, he wants to discover something new. So this is the desire of Ulysses here. So the students, what is a dramatic monologue? You can find here, analyze. Already I have discussed what is dramatic monologue, and analyze Ulysses as a dramatic monologue. If you wants to arrange the question, you will help. You can take the help from the slides. From the slides, so in this way, you can arrange this question. It's very easy for you. And uh, another question is that comment on Ulysses, unquenchable thirst for knowledge and adventure, Victorian spirit. Already I have discussed in this poem. So if you take the marked red marking lines, you will find the answer of this question. So dear students, in your home, it is your homework. It is a homework that you will try to make the answer in your own way. What is dramatic monologue? So already you know that. What is dramatic monologue? Dramatic monologue is a type of poem where a single speaker speaks and there are some, or a single silent listener. And there are some criteria, and you will say that this all types criteria we find in the poem Ulysses. So it is a finest example of dramatic monologue. So and thirst for knowledge and adventure. You, if you take help the marking line, you will get the answer of this types of this question. So you can help, you can take help from these types of books, and you can use the links here. And I would like to thank you to listen the class. So dear students, I hope that you will be happy to make arrange the answer of of these questions. So if you try, inshallah you will can. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. In the next class, we will discuss about another topics. So till then, Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.